the Bering surfaced near the orbit of Pluto. Immediately Igor turned off the main engine, and the ship continued to move by inertia. Nothing has changed. That's the first thought that flashed through him. The planets are in their places. Just like hundreds of millions of years ago, they lazily circled along a given trajectory, without even thinking of turning away from them. Nevertheless, there are still changes. The system detected more than 24 functioning gates, all of them located at the very edge of the solar system. Igor even tracked how a spaceship slipped out of the neighboring ones, located just 1,000,000 kilometers away. He burst out of the cloud of light, surrounded by lightning. In less than half an hour, the Bering reached Jupiter. Igor easily distinguished the numerous lights on the surface of Europa, the planet's satellite. The multicolored neon lights made it look like a New Year's ball, so they shimmered weirdly. When the ship approached Mars, a voice was heard. "Bering, welcome back to Earth." "Greetings." Igor's voice was trembling with happiness and awareness of the fact of success in completing the mission. He couldn't wait to report back and receive a well-deserved portion of praise. "How should I address you?" "I am the planetary artificial intelligence of the Earth." "What?" Igor was somewhat confused by this statement. "I am." He hesitated a little, not imagining the possibility of communicating with him on equal terms. The bioprocess under the identification number I-17, also named Igor, is pleased to meet you directly. The AI of Earth continued in an even voice. A bioprocessor, these words cut through the sensitive points remaining in his mind. He is still a human being, has the essence of a human enclosed in the brain, and he is treated like a machine. "Is that correct? Your further instructions?" Tyrell was puzzled to note how Igor's voice had changed, becoming deaf with a hint of sullenness. "Put the Bering control system under my control, and I'll guide you to the moon." As soon as Igor obeyed the order, he felt something unimaginable that thoroughly scared him. In less than a second, all the information was drained from the brain. Absolutely everything. Not only about the spaceship or Elbrus, but also what Igor has preserved as memories, from childhood to those he received on the way to the planet. He felt as if something was pulling everything out of him, greedily absorbing it, merging with his essence. In another moment, Igor's consciousness would have ceased to exist. "It is very interesting. The AI of the Earth has already managed to analyze. You have told a lot, Igor. For scientists, your observations will become very valuable information. And that mineral from Elbrus, I'm sure the Earth's Energy Committee will be happy to study its properties. Your return is very timely, Igor. I am glad to serve the Earth." Suddenly painful sensations began to appear in my brain. The nanorobots bustled about, getting down to business. They began to prowl between the convolutions, looking for damaged areas. But for a number of reasons, the Earth AI continued factly, "We need you." "Who are we?" "The leadership of Earth, of course. Is he, an artificial intelligence, entering into the management of the planet?" Igor did not believe him. Has everything changed so much in almost 200 years? "Upon arrival at the rendezvous point, you will be removed from the Bering and transferred to another ship after an examination. The next expedition awaits you." "So fast?" Igor was surprised by this. "Are you feeling tired?" "No." "Then what's the matter?" The speed in decision-making is surprising. Igor decided to adjust to the tone of the AI of the Earth, since he sees in it a machine mind, so maybe he will begin to explain more clearly. "There is an urgent need to visit Gliese 531. "Gliese?" Igor blurted out happily. "Are you sending me to Gliese?" "Yes." He himself could not understand why he had such a violent display of emotions. Anna has most likely already died, but it is quite possible that her descendants remain on the planet. That's what suddenly warmed Igor's mind. At least to get in touch with the past life. The planetary AI brought the spaceship to the moon's orbit. The satellite has noticeably transformed, becoming a sparkling diamond in outer space. There were many ships near it, and constant traffic. The Earth has also changed, becoming brighter. It seemed that she had built a dome that covered a considerable part with electric light. It was huge, always glowing, and outshone the stars in its brilliance. It must have taken a lot of energy to maintain it. However, at the same time, Dark depressions could be seen on the ground, where there was no sign of anyone. And their size was also impressive. It seemed that one part of the Earth was always awake, the other always asleep. Mirror-like structures appeared in the planet's orbit, and satellites covered it with a dense grid. After a couple of seconds, Igor found out that they are designed to control the climate of the planet, creating favorable conditions for life. All this was supported by an unimaginable amount of resources imported from the open corners of the universe. 2 more worlds became available to human civilization, and having received the coveted access to space, it made full use of it, expanding its influence. Turul carefully detached the sphere in which Igor's brain was located, and the manipulator rearranged it into a capsule. Igor had a strange feeling, as if he had lost his body for the second time. He had just possessed a powerful organism, and now his existence had narrowed down to the transparent walls of the sphere again. The adapter handed him over to 2 employees in white jumpsuits, who in turn transported him to the moon. The laboratory was nothing remarkable. Igor was placed on a ghostly green light circle, and everything was disconnected at once. A thoroughly forgotten, frightening emptiness and the sticky cold of darkness collapsed. Igor was worried at first, but then he suddenly discovered how convenient it was to be here now. Everything connected to the outside world disappeared instantly. The brain seemed to overload, getting rid of the worries, and lightness appeared. The light came on again, and Igor saw a familiar silhouette in front of him. At first he didn't believe it, waiting for the cameras to focus, but no, he wasn't mistaken. "Professor Chan?" Igor exclaimed in disbelief. Chan turned towards the voice. No, not really. Igor himself understood the reason for the error. Yes, it was Chan, but he looked younger now than when they had last met. "I assume you're a clone?" Igor asked politely. "Exactly." He nodded. "After the death of, let's say, the carrier of my DNA, the Planetary AI proposed to clone Professor Chan, in the hope that his copies could also inherit his desire for science. And I see that it was successful?" "Not really. My number is 21, and I'm noticeably inferior to my predecessor in the field of innovation, remaining an ideal performer. It seems that the only thing he had in common with the old Chan was the imperturbability with which the clone behaved. I wonder if it makes sense to communicate with him?" Igor thought about it. "I have a question," he decided. "Why am I being addressed as a processor?" A look of bewilderment appeared on the new Chan's face. "In fact, you are a computing machine, or rather your brain." "How?" Not that this statement turned out to be so frank for Igor. He himself began to suspect something like that, but still. "Just a car?" "It's kind of organic, and it would be much more effective if it were possible to suppress the so-called personality. But as it turned out during the first experiments, in this case the brain was deprived of the necessary stimuli in the neural network, which made it useless." "Experiments? What is he talking about?" flashed through Igor's mind. Chan continued matter-of-factly. "We are currently conducting research to eliminate this defect. It is possible to introduce an artificial neural network into the brain and create a so-called integrated intelligence, a biotechnological processor." "And you're going to do this with us? Do we still have personalities? Our consciousness?" Igor simply did not believe what he had heard. Chan shrugged his shoulders calmly. "Science does not stand still. It needs constant development. As in the case of adapts or clones, we are now creating a new branch of humanity, the genomes. They will outperform humans in many ways. Diagnostics have been performed. The I-17 processor is normal," the scientist reported to the Planetary AI. "Great. Then proceed to install it on the cruiser." "A cruiser? Isn't that what they call warships?" This puzzled Igor no less than the conversation with Chan's clone. "I am connecting. The processor is communicating with the systems. The connection was successful." This time, Igor reacted more restrained when he was called the processor. All the attention is absorbed by the new ship, the battle cruiser. The engines were standard, photon-powered. The hull of the cruiser differed little from the Ark. There were 281 people on board, or rather units, since a third of them were adapts. Igor, watching them, noted that these people were much more confident in communicating with people. They clearly began to treat themselves as a separate people, a different race, and not a branch of humanity changed for the sake of space exploration. But Igor was most impressed by the filling of the ship. The weapon system got into the description of the ammunition, and if he had a mouth, he would have gasped loudly. The cruiser had 2 railgun systems, pulse charge installations, and laser weapons. But the main highlight, or rather the filling of all this, was the mines for launching nuclear-powered missiles. And why do you need such an impressive arsenal? The Academy's instructor, who had chased him and Mikhail on combat training simulators, immediately came back to his memory. Did people really encounter another civilization in space? A man with perfect posture walked into the control center and sat in the captain's seat, looking at which he involuntarily wanted to straighten his back. He is wearing a dark blue uniform with silver buttons with embossed stars. On the sleeve is the emblem of the Earth. In place of the shoulder straps there are 2 embroidered lines of golden color. Commander Nelson. To report on the state of readiness. He confidently settled into the chair, not even glancing at Igor's sphere standing next to it. Everything is fine. The cruiser is ready to depart. They informed him clearly in a military manner. How are the others doing? Nelson stared ahead at the moon shining in neon lights. There are many ships in its orbit, from transporters to a couple of giant arcs. Shuttles slipped between them, and drilling ships designed for geological work on asteroids sailed lazily. The same stern face appeared on the monitor in front of the captain. The cruiser. London is ready. He was followed by the image of another captain. The cruiser Whirlwind is ready. The next 3 commanders also reported on their readiness. How many processors are installed on? On our own, London and Whirlwind. Igor managed to suppress the sprouts of irritation. Do they need an ideal performer? They'll get it, but if there's a problem, don't count on his favor. I see. The London goes first, followed by ships without a processor, followed by the Whirlwind, and we bring up the rear. The order is understood. They answered him in unison from all the starships. The crews must enter a state of hibernation. Bring them back to normal 2 days before exiting the gate. The last order clearly sounded in Igor's direction. Yes, he replied dryly. Let's go out. Nelson stood up and stood at the porthole, watching as the landscape began to change. The cruiser turned around and, guided by the navigation of the Planetary AI, headed towards the orbit of Pluto. This time, sublight speed was immediately turned on, which surprised Igor a lot, but since the control was completely dependent on the AI of the Earth, he did not interfere in the process. It took several hours to reach the right gate. Prepare to enter the gate, Igor found it necessary to warn, although the crew was already in cryocapsules, except for adapts. Igor's consciousness dived back into the enveloping white light. The second day of Standard Time, as the Earth Day began, the warships plowed through outer space. It will take a month to travel through the gate to Gliese 531. The adapts went about their business, completely ignoring Igor's attempts to get them to talk. He thought longingly of Turil. All that remained was to reminisce. The news of Gliese's imminent visit warmed up the pictures of the past pleasantly. The image of Anna instantly surfaced, his light gait. How she laughed when he managed to make a good joke. How she loved to kiss him, looking into his eyes. All this is now the past. All these are just emotions, but they are so vivid and memorable. But everything could have turned out differently, and now their descendants would be on Gliese. Bitterness, that's what gripped Igor's mind. "I-17, how are you?" A familiar voice with mocking notes sounded in my mind. "Who's that?" He started checking the system, looking for its owner. "You didn't recognize me. I'm Herman," he chuckled. "Herman!" Igor was delighted. "Yeah, the cruiser London. And by the way, it's useless to look for me in the systems of your ship. It turns out that we have the opportunity to communicate secretly." "You mean?" "I don't know how it happened. Most likely a miscalculation was made. But using communication systems, we are able to establish hidden channels among ourselves." Wow, Igor didn't know about this, however. How could he know? The only thing he knows is that it is possible to influence the behavior of nanobots that support the work of the sphere. So, Herman continued, you've returned from deep space. And how do you like that planet? Excellent. And for several hours Igor talked excitedly about what had happened to him. Herman occasionally chuckled, seeing the emotions that overwhelmed his friend. I was mainly engaged in exploration, so to speak. I studied the boundaries of the dark frontier. I didn't see anything interesting, just a void and a rare asteroid, and that's it, Herman briefly told about himself. Alexander was sent to Pangaea. Pangaea? What's it? Another open world. It takes at least 300 years to get there, so I won't see you soon. Igor thought about something else. And who is the third? What? Herman did not understand him. The third one who controls the cruiser. Why is he silent? Ah, Herman drawled, changing his tone. He won't talk. All I know about him is identification number 5, and that he's always silent. I tried to establish a communication channel with him a couple of times, but there was a void inside my brain, as if my personality itself had been burned out. Burned out the personality? The words of Chan's clone immediately came to mind, that it would be good to improve the functioning of the brain as a processor, to rid it of the personality remaining in it. Had he gone through a similar procedure? Anxiety surged into Igor's mind. Herman, why are we going to Gliese? What is it? He asked cautiously. Gliese decided to start a rebellion, he replied after a minute. As far as I know, the colonists refused to cooperate with Earth because of the planetary artificial intelligence, or maybe it was just a convenient reason for them. You see, it wasn't easy with Gliese at first. When the Ark reached the planet, it didn't immediately turn on the gate until 50 years later. At first, they still accepted new colonists. But then, when Earth decided to establish its leadership, it refused to do so. They are currently in control of the exit gate, and Earth hopes to scare them by sending us. After all, these troublemakers don't have the same heavy weapons as us. They should understand the futility of rebellion. All this stunned Igor. He did not understand the fact that all these formidable weapons on board were intended against people. For some reason, the image of Anna flashed brightly in his mind. No. He didn't want to hurt her, or those she'd left behind on the planet. And something completely incomprehensible happened to the Eden, Herman continued. When the AI of Earth was just beginning to be created, those who did not want to have the opportunity for full autonomy immediately appeared. As a result, those who did not accept the advent of AI Earth wanted to leave on Eden. They were also joined on other ships. A caravan of 5 starships gathered, which set off towards the open planet. The Earth's leadership, wanting to be safe, sent a group of people loyal to Earth with them. However, 10 years later, the Eden stopped sending signals, although the beacons installed in it showed movement. As a result, it was decided to follow him, but then it turned out that the Ark did not leave a gate behind it. There were only a few on the edge of the solar system, and that was it. As a result, any attempts to catch up with them immediately failed. What do you think happened? I'm sure that Cortez, the head of the Eden, originally planned this. It's a long distance from Earth to that planet, 210 light-years, if not more. He promised those who followed him that there would be no planetary artificial intelligence in the New World, and people who were afraid of AI made him their leader. Most likely the colonists loyal to Earth are locked up, if not killed. Herman's news made Igor depressed. This was not how he imagined the future of humanity in the universe. Another thought came to mind, and where is his friend Mikhail? But Herman didn't know that. Herman's news made Igor depressed. This was not how he imagined the future of humanity in the universe. Another thought came to mind. And where is his friend Mikhail? But Herman didn't know that. They spent the following days before their goal reminiscing about the past, when they were still cadets at the academy. Igor fully learned how to use a secret communication channel, and even tried to get in touch with number 5. But as Herman said, there's only a burnt-out void inside him. A couple of days before approaching Gliese, the crew of the cruiser had their cryocapsules lifted. Igor hoped that as soon as the colonists saw their fleet, they would immediately realize the futility of resistance, and everything would be settled. After all, we are human beings. One world, one family. Get ready to exit the gate. Nelson, clutching the armrests, did not take his eyes off the main monitor. He was tense, as small drops of sweat accumulated on his forehead said. Afraid, Igor thought, clearly afraid. For some reason, this hunch made him believe that the captain was unlikely to be so eager to get involved in battle. We're coming out of the gate, came the voice of the captain of the London. Igor watched as the ships leaving the gate one by one go out into outer space. It was his turn, the usual white light, a red star with a crown of seething plasma, a planet beneath them, and rare stars in the pitch-black universe. Why are we so close to her? Igor wondered to himself when he saw the huge ball below him. The cruiser, London has been destroyed. One of the officers in the control room shouted. What? Igor did not believe what he saw. The silhouette of London disappeared amid the opening glow. The spaceship died almost instantly, shattering into many pieces. The escort ship is disabled. Another statement was already being made. Nelson gripped the armrests with such force that his knuckles turned white, and it was not clear what cracked, the bones or the cheap plastic from which the chair was made. They've moved the gate, Adapt informed the captain, bent over the control panel. It doesn't matter anymore, Nelson snapped. Identify targets, open fire! His voice sounded harsh and demanding, not giving the crew a chance to panic. His brain started working at a speed he had never seen before, and Igor felt his convolutions start working again, and he felt like he was starting to swell. There are only two goals. 2 enemy ships. What kind of opponents? Igor resisted himself. These are colonists. These are people. They are from Earth. Now they're the enemy, an inner voice declared from nowhere. They just destroyed our cruisers. They killed Herman. Herman! Igor turned the camera's gaze to the wreckage of the destroyed London. They were being pulled into the atmosphere, and the largest of them were already incandescent, rushing to the surface. In principle, if Herman had survived the explosion, he would have had a chance to survive in space. The sphere is made of very durable material. The flames and fragments would not have harmed her. But now, even if Herman is alive, passing through the atmosphere, hitting the surface of Glisa will destroy him. For just a second, even much less, Igor was distracted, and missed a salvo when Nelson ordered an attack on the colonists. Pulsed flashes drew an arc, pale blue flames raced towards the rioters, and hitting the protective energy shield, they scattered into tiny sparks. Damn it! The captain banged his fist on the chair and jumped to his feet. Repeat the attack. Hit with plasma. They have an energy shield. Plasma is useless against it. It takes time to recharge the batteries. The captain of the equipment was enlightened. It will take at least 2 minutes. Then something happened that Igor did not expect. I suggest using railguns. The energy shield is useless in front of them. What is that voice? A biting cold seized me. It was his own voice, but without emotion. As if the machine was talking. The brain issued a suggestion on how to act, bypassing Igor's consciousness. Exactly. The captain turned towards the team. Get started. How is this possible? How did this happen? How did the brain manage to bypass it? If a second ago Igor was sure that consciousness was what was left of his body, his personality, now he felt incredible horror. The brain is able to be separate from it, from consciousness, the only thing left in it that is truly human. The cruiser's engines flashed, changing position. Meanwhile, a hail of shelling from the colonists descended on them. The Whirlwind managed to maneuver, but another escort ship was blown to pieces. The madmen, Nelson said contemptuously, watching another death from his fleet. Don't they understand the simple truth that even if we are all killed, more will come next time? And what were they hoping for with their paltry forces? What kind of victory did you expect? One of the volleys still reached the target. The cruiser shook noticeably. The lights went out for a moment, and a nervous tremor ran through the building, causing some people to fall. Nelson managed to stay on his feet, gripping tightly to the edge of the podium, on which the sphere stood. Igor instantly examined the damage. Very minor. Targets have been captured, the system announced. Fire! Nelson blurted out. The railguns fired several volleys at once, and they all reached their target. Bright dots on distant ships heralded a successful hit. The whirlwind took advantage of the situation and sent a plasma charge after them. Nelson smiled triumphantly as he looked at the dying rioters. So now, according to the plan, we have to punish the colony, he said gloomily, sitting down in the captain's chair. What does it mean to punish? Igor asked, startled. Whirlwind. Set sights on the planet, prepare nuclear charges, Nelson continued, not hearing Igor's voice. Wait, this is going to kill them all, Igor protested. Is everything ready? The captain turned to his team with a stony face. Yes, they answered him in hushed voices. I remind you, we are following the orders of the leadership of the Earth, anticipating the plan developed by them. Nelson's appeal seemed to go into the void. After that, new colonists will be sent here, who will continue to explore the planet, bearing in mind the events that took place here. That's what they were going to do with the losers. No negotiations, no offer to surrender. Only the inevitable punishment. Stop it. You can't punish everyone indiscriminately. Igor refused to believe what he had heard. He just couldn't believe it. I order you to open fire. There is. No. The team froze at the control panel. Then one of the adapters raised his blue eyes and said, The processor has blocked the weapon system. What are you doing? Perhaps for the first time, Nelson looked directly at the sphere. You can't disobey. I can, Igor's voice suddenly sounded hoarse. We are not murderers. Nelson was silent for a few seconds, then just pointed at the screen. You're not going to affect anything anyway. Several rockets were already flying from the whirlwind towards Gliza. Anna, her image flashed through my mind. Anna, did she manage to create a happy family and leave offspring as they once dreamed of, wanting to move to Gliza? Now all this will burn up in the blink of an eye in a nuclear fire. The colonists have created only a couple of towns with environs, so it will not be difficult to destroy them. The laser beam flashed like a scalpel, cutting through the bodies of the rockets. They simply fell apart in the atmosphere of the planet. Their charges became useless. From now on, you're a criminal, a deserter, Nelson hissed. Don't forget, I'm in charge of everything here. Igor's anger overwhelmed him. First of all, I caused a short circuit in the rockets so that the electronic stuffing would become unusable. But I didn't know what to do next. What should I do with the whole crew on board? Having taken them hostage, now he did not understand what step to take. Attention. Emergency situation. Manual control program is enabled. That's all, Nelson smiled grimly. You didn't control everything. What? The processor's limited functionality program has been activated, an indifferent voice said. What kind of program is this? And a second later he realized that access to the ship's systems had been cut off. The limited functionality program was created just in case the processor decides not to obey us. Nelson confidently settled into his chair. Of course, performance is falling, but it still allows the use of a biprocessor. For now, you will remain conscious, and upon returning to Earth, the learned brethren will decide what to do with you. Prepare for impact. Trapped in his own brain, with a seething consciousness, unable to influence anything, Igor experienced incredible torment. We cannot use nuclear missiles. There are no more of them on the whirlwind. Then we'll fire the railguns, Nelson said coldly, stroking his chin. I think that will be quite enough. Until the charges ran out, the two cruisers methodically bombarded the surface of Gliza 531, destroying what little had been created over 100 years of exploration of the New World. Igor, watching this, wanted to die. The shells didn't just burn the planet, they destroyed the only bright thing for which he actually agreed to live. Memories of the past. Igor made the whole way back immersed in his own thoughts. What awaits him now? One thing I understood. Nothing good. Most likely, they will treat him like the one on the whirlwind. They will simply try to burn him out of his own brain, and then he will die completely. The brain, having lost its personality, will become a 100% bioprocessor. They're still doing pretty well on their own. With limited functionality, Igor did not even know about such a program implemented in the sphere. The only thing he had power over was the nanobots. They continued to serve properly. Wait. Is he still controlling them? How does this happen? When no one was in the control center, Igor decided to make sure of one guess. With the help of nanobots, he penetrated the sensors of the sphere. And so it is. Nanobots can take over control. Ultimately, they are robots with electronic stuffing, and they are able to fit into all the microcircuits. That is, all he needs to do is order them to breed, gradually infiltrating all the ship's systems. And then it doesn't matter if humans have control over his brain or not. The nanobots will only listen to him. He will save himself by making them a part of his consciousness. People. He shuddered with contempt for them. People do not change. They have remained greedy creatures, even having acquired such an endless storehouse of everything useful as space. They did not accept the fact that someone would not want to adapt to the general rules. But he's not human. He's above them. Exactly. He will remake himself, or rather, what is left of him. Slowly, hour after hour, the inconspicuous nanobots gradually reshaped the convolutions of the brain. They created something new, radically different from Igor's previous state. All he needs now is time, which he simply didn't have. The ship emerged from the gate as it should on the edge of the solar system. The first thing Nelson did was notify about the processor incident. He refused to follow orders, and had to limit his authority, the captain reported. You did the right thing, Nelson. Igor easily recognized the voice of Earth's AI. These processors have started to fail everywhere. At the moment, there is a solution to the problem by creating an integral intelligence. Stay near the gate. A ship of technicians is on its way to you. Oh, they'll do it anyway. Oh, how Igor would like to have a face now so that everyone, including the crew, could see his contemptuous grin. Unfortunately, I am deprived of such happiness. Igor, is that you? Who's that? The voice that came over the closed channel clearly belonged to someone like him. William? Igor was overjoyed. William? I'm so happy that you're alive. Not for long, he said abruptly. Have you heard what they're going to do to us? Yes. Some kind of integral intelligence. We will become more machines than people. So I tried to escape, but I couldn't. What? Get on the radar, my friend. Igor could have already done this. He just didn't do it so as not to give himself away. But William's voice alarmed him, and made him forget about caution. Captain! The adapter squealed, staring at the control panel with wide eyes. Igor got the picture as far as possible at a distance of 1,000,000 kilometers. The gates are visible, and bright flashes near them. William! Igor froze in apprehension. The ship under William's control was under fire. So far, he had managed to evade the incessant attacks, but it was becoming clear how the confrontation would end. You have time, run, Igor. Jump through the gate and escape into space. But the carriage. Get rid of him. Igor was not ready for such a turn, just as he did not despise Nelson and the others. He did not want them to die at all. It's not right, he protested weakly. It wasn't right to agree to this. William shouted with such force, lost control of himself, his voice cut through the measured noise in the control center. Nelson shook his head, puzzled. We were initially treated as... The voice, having reached the peak of emotion, suddenly stopped. A bright flash flashed among the stars. Immediately, the cries of others rang out in Igor's mind. Run! Run! They were all afraid for their own lives, and all they had left was their consciousness, which was about to be taken away. The processor-controlled starships began to turn towards the gate. Someone immediately managed to slip into them. Someone shared the fate of William. It was only now that Igor realized that all of them had been gathered at the edge of the solar system, apparently fearing something similar, a rebellion on their part. Should I stay or run? The crew began to fuss. Our processor is out of order. It somehow managed to reconnect to the cruiser's systems. The captain panicked as he reported the news to Earth. Try to limit its functionality, he was coldly instructed from Earth. Igor felt gloating as he watched Nelson's red face. It's not for him to shoot at defenseless colonists when death is in the immediate vicinity. It scares. But still, we can disable the engine, and then it won't be able to leave, one of the adapters suggested. That's right, Nelson cheered up. Don't get your hopes up. Igor's voice boomed through all the sensors. To hell with you all. He made a decision. He immediately closed all the doors and airlocks, locking the crew. The cruiser turned towards the gate. Igor noticed the distant lights of the warships flashing in his direction. A couple of minutes and they would catch up with him. The spaceship took off without even really gaining speed, and yet it overtook sublight just before jumping into the gate. What are you going to do? Nelson shouted, while the crew unsuccessfully tried to regain control of the ship. Their attempts are in vain. The nanobots have successfully completed their mission, switching all systems under Igor's command. Do you want to go back to Glisa? But it's true that these gates will lead him to Glisa. Not only are the Earth forces most likely already chasing him, but there is also a surviving escort ship with a whirlwind right at the gate, which will undoubtedly understand what's going on and engage him in battle. No, we don't just have to run, we have to hide. Hide, so that no one can find him, and hide. To lie low, forever. And it's best to do it in the midst of a vast universe. Well, it's time to find out why you can't leave the gate. The ship tore through space and time at full speed. The aura around it exploded in blinding flashes of lightning, whirling around the cruiser in a deadly circle. For a moment, Igor was plunged into darkness, but before that, he heard the heart-rending scream of hundreds of voices, merged into a single convulsive moan. Gradually, the sensors returned to normal, and Igor saw a picture consisting of stars and distant galaxies, slowly rotating in the eternity of the universe. As always, space is beautiful, majestic, and cold. What Igor always liked was exactly how he imagined it when he was a child, lifting his head into the night sky. And now, he's completely at his mercy. You can embark on an endless journey, drifting among the cosmic dust like the Flying Dutchman from mythical stories, or find a place on a satellite of some planet. After all, no one will disturb him now. It is simply not possible to find a lonely ship in space, which is also hidden. Yes, he would do that, find a secluded place to reminisce, and replay them over and over again indefinitely. Dreams. It is dreams that make us human. Perhaps this last clear thought flashed through Igor's mind. Dreams. He dreamed with her, dreamed of happiness, of the starry sky, and of his own home on the edge of the universe. Let his dream come true when his mind plunges into madness. If someone was lucky enough to stumble upon a lone starship slowly sailing through outer space, he would be very surprised to catch a measured murmur repeated over and over again in the transmission frequency. Under the shadow of the stars stands my house. He is beautiful, under the shadow of the stars. She stands under the shadow of the stars. Under the shadow of the stars, the princess of sleep. She stands and waits for me, when I come back for her from the dream. My sleep is deep under the shadow of the stars. I will remain under the shadow of the stars, forever closing my eyes.